Coogs House. All right, there was a lot of excitement about the Big 12 and the football program starting practice and all those kinds of things. But did y'all know the basketball team got started this week too?
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, the daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach, Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a U of H fan or just a hater can stop by, please be sure to subscribe down below. That way you can listen to Cougs into your newsfeed each and every day. We appreciate you making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. And welcome back to the YouTube channel. Remember, we're doing a giveaway every 250 subscribers. We're at 1,350 as the time I'm recording this. So make sure to subscribe down below so we can give you a hat or something fun at 1,500. Comment and like to let us know you're in the contest. If, after watching today's episode about basketball, you have nothing else left to say, tell us if you are right or left-handed. All right, so today's episode is all about the basketball scrimmage that kicked off the season on Tuesday. Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review was there, and he's going to help tell us a lot of insight as to what he saw as a reporter in the building. And we'll talk some about the projections of the team this year and their upcoming trip to Australia. Let's jump on in. And we are joined by Kris Gardner. I want to say owner and operator, but you're also the voice of, the producer of, the editor of all things Houston Roundball Review. I've been covering Houston basketball for a long time, amongst other things. Kris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Parker, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to get some rest these days, but I'm doing all right. Kris, you've been covering Houston basketball broadly, Rice, U of H, the Rockets, the Comets, I'm sure at some point, right? Like everyone right in town for a long time.
Right.
Before we get into talk about the red and white scrimmage and who stuck out and those kind of things, what does the buzz about this Houston Cougar men's basketball, this era of Houston Cougar basketball, feel like relative to the entire time you've been covering Houston?
That's a great question, and Tuesday night had a great example of how far the program has come by the number of former players attending the scrimmage. It was, Josh Carlton, Corey Davis, Kyler Edwards, Galen Robinson, Dejon Giroux, Nate Henson, Fabian White. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but it was just great. Quentin Grimes, Marcus Sasser, the Detroit Pistons, shout out to that. All right. But all of those young men back, they're in town to work out on campus at the Gavi facility, but also to stop by to support the current Cougs roster. Is a great example of Coach Sampson and the family vibe he's created with the program and these going on 10 years now. Because prior to him being there, that family vibe was gone. I don't have time to tell you and the viewers stories, but let's just say that the administration did a poor job of connecting and staying in touch with alums, former players, including one of the greatest Cougars in UH history. So, and he's also the greatest Rocket in history. So I'm giving you a great hint of how they kind of charred up a bridge between him and the program for a while. So Coach Sampson and his staff have done a much, much, much better job of reconnecting with the alums and helping them feel like they're still part of the program.
Well, and the program is continuing to trend upwards. It is heading into the Big 12, which is the best conference in college basketball. And it's a very fitting spot for one of the teams that has been, at any given point or day, one of the best teams in college basketball for a while now. Hoping to have the same kind of success this year. And the family you mentioned has some new faces in it this year. The roster is a little bit different, a little bit shaken up. And I think in a good way, but we'll talk about it. They had a red and white scrimmage on Tuesday night. The scrimmage, I think the like marquee matchup, if you were putting this on ESPN, would have been LJ Cryer on one side, the transfer in from Baylor, and Jamal Shead on the other side. As a headlining matchup, what did you make of the guys competing with one another, and what stuck out to you?
LJ Cryer can shoot the basketball. His three-point shot, I think he was 5 for 6 from 3 and 5 for 9. He made 5 threes Tuesday night in the scrimmage. Good looks. I can see the future with he and LJ sharing the backcourt, starting backcourt together. But for them going head to head, just to give fans an idea of what each other does well. LJ's more of a shooter, 3-point shooter. Jamal is the facilitator. I think they kind of went head to head, and a couple times Jamal got the better of LJ. And LJ said to the media afterwards how he still leans on Jamal to, learn the coverages, learn the defenses, learn the play calls, and how to defend high screening roles and things like that. And I think the two of them will be roommates this season. I think that's right. I remember hearing that right. But it's just the two of them will lead this team. I think as much success the team will have this year will depend on those two and how much success those two have.
Another year with another dynamic Houston backcourt. I've watched some of LJ Crier's Baylor stuff because I was excited when he committed, right? Mm-hmm. And he is for reference for people that have been watching the Cougars and nobody else, he actually shoots a higher percentage from three than Marcus Sasser does, right? Yeah. He's not quite as crafty and shifty. It didn't feel like in watching his Baylor tape, but he also didn't have the range thrown to him the way that Houston did to Sasser at times. Did you see any of those kind of elements in this game, or was it more just catch and shoot, catch and shoot, catch and shoot?
Most of what he did was catch and shoot because the team, the staff, is trying to implement more of a motion offense at some points. And clearly this is August, so it hasn't been in very long. So there were some rough patches with it. But there was some great ball movement Tuesday night. It was really great to see and ended up with a lot of guys with open shots. Defensively, the coaches for both teams, Coach Kellen and Coach Q, were not happy with some of the defensive breakdowns because defense is so important to the team's success. So even though it's red and white scrimmage and everybody knows the plays and knows what's going on, the coaches, that defensive mentality you could still see shining through because why is he open? You're supposed to, that kind of stuff, but it's just part of it. But yeah, you could see the potential with the ball movement was really crisp early on. And for August, I was really impressed.
Well, and they probably wouldn't be coaches on Coach Kelvin Sampson's staff if they weren't more into the defense like that. Sure. That just seems to be kind of how things fit in around Houston. There were two guys that didn't suit up. Juwan Roberts and Cordell Jefferson. I think Juwan Roberts probably has the bigger headline because he's been here for so long and he was a kind of a key part in last year's team, especially a couple of big wins again. Like he was integral in like the Tulane win and stuff last year. Talk to me. What did you hear? I mean, you were there before, during, and after. What did you hear about Juwan's injury? He was in a walking boot, but he had practiced the day before.
Right. And I spoke to him briefly before Coach Sampson talked to us about it because I wasn't really focused on, I was talking about the younger guys. It took me a while to realize Juan wasn't even in the scrimmage. And then afterwards, I spoke to him. I was like, yo, what's up with this, man? I saw him in the boot. And basically he said, it's nothing serious. I injured it in practice on Monday, but I'm good. And I'll be good to go for Australia. And I said, okay. And then I followed up with Coach Kelvin Sampson, and he said to me, yeah, it's not serious. If this were a game, he could have played, and that I made a mistake, so it's not serious. Chris, if it were a game, he would have played, so it's not serious. Okay, Coach, thank you very much. All right.
That's a very classic Kelvin interaction, too. Yeah. Cordell Jefferson, there's been reports about him redshirting because of some wrist injuries. Freshmen redshirt all the time. I don't mean to talk about it as if they don't. Kelvin, I think, did seem kind of struck like about how like this is just a bad stroke of luck for Cordell. When you heard Kelvin talk about the injuries to his wrists, it seems kind of weird. What's going on there?
It is weird, but it's a great example of how tough Cordell Jefferson is. He played his senior year in high school with broken wrists. A broken
Plural.
Left wrist and a broken right wrist.
Yeah.
He didn't know that they were broken. He just thought that there's some pain here, so he might have to dribble different, shoot differently. So he did not realize until he got to UH and went through the physicals, and the staff told him, you got broken bones in your wrist, man. And he's like, really? I do? They're like, yeah. So he had surgery on, I think, the left one first. I think that was in June, and that's pretty much healed. And they'll have surgery on the right one when the team comes back from Australia. Roughly a 2-month recovery time. But yes, because I asked him, I said, man, you played with broken. He said, my senior year, I was not going to play. I was like, okay. so your toughness is proven already. So welcome to the Cougar basketball program.
Fits right in.
Yep.
And I have to say, I tweeted out that selfishly, the idea of he and Mercy Miller, who'll be on campus next year, like starting their careers together is something I'm excited about. Obviously, I don't want a kid to get hurt or anything like that, but I do like that they'll have 4 years theoretically together in the future. All right, let's take a time out from talking about the Houston Cougar basketball roster and all of the talent that they've got going to tell you how you can get some talent going into your company as well. Because these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. If you can find a guy like a JoJo Tugler to come and join your team and be an impact player like the Houston Cougars have done on this year's basketball team, then you need to do it. You need to do it at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs, you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. In the present, I have made the argument in talking about the Houston Cougar basketball program that they're going to need some freshman big man to play, right? Roberts and Francis are great starters, but really you need some more depth there. And they have 3 very different looking guys.
Sure.
McFarland is a tall beanpole. Big XII is called Big XII because he looks like a Mack truck. Mm-hmm. And then you've got JoJo Tugler. I was about to say Joseph, but he's JoJo Tugler.
Right.
And JoJo Tugler is a local kid, so I think he's got a lot of fans in the stands as far as wanting him to be the guy that gets more minutes. But he also offers a diverse skill set and then had a really great scrimmage. So how does Tugler fit into this lineup, and where do you see Tugler shining with this group?
I thought he had a great scrimmage, and then he spoke to us afterwards, and then what he said made me check the box score, and I was like, wow, he not have a great scrimmage. He's correct. He was really harping on the fact he rebounded poorly. And he said, yeah, I only had like 3 rebounds. He only had 1. Only 1 rebound. So for him to accept the fact and acknowledge the fact that he needs to do a better job crashing the boards is a great sign. I think he will be the freshman big that plays the most minutes on a consistent basis. Jacob is just, as you said, he's a beanpole. And Parker, he's gained weight. Okay?
That's scary.
Since he's arrived on campus, he's gained weight. So, and he's still a beanpole. So he probably will redshirt as well because he should not be needed. Shead is still new to basketball, so he's still learning, the terms, the vernacular, all those things. Being an international big man, so he's still learning how to Cougar basketball 1, and then what to do in certain screens and coverages and all those things as well. So, but physically, he's imposing. He is a huge young man. He might be the strongest player on the team. I have to check with Coach Bishop on that for fact. But he looks like it. Lifting and what they've shown so far in clips, I think Big XII is the strongest player on the team. I think he has a lot of upside. But JoJo, long arms, blocked a dunk attempt by Shead, made him at the rim, and JoJo won that. So he can, I could just envision he and Francis causing a lot of havoc for teams defensively with their long arms and their quickness and protecting the rim.
For reference on Shead, I just double checked to get my math right here, but he did redshirt last year technically because he came in January.
Right.
And so he will probably play more than Jacob because you could redshirt Jacob this year, right? But Shead did just start playing high school basketball as what the equivalent of a sophomore would be. He's originally from the Ivory Coast, and I'm sure has more like soccer and things in his background, like other sports in his background. He's very athletic. He did something. JoJo is so long that I think there's some people that think he could play a 5. I know last year Roberts kind of played a quasi 4-5, depending on what the other big was in or which of the other bigs was in. I don't think Tugler is quite. People should not expect the impact that like Jarris had a year ago as a freshman. I don't mean to say that, but he is a unique athlete because he is so long. And maybe with the motion offense, traditional positions are kind of going out the window anyway. But do you see him being more of a 4, kind of with the ball a little bit further away from the basket? Do you see him putting down on the block? Like after watching him fit in for a night, what is your perception of where he's going to be?
I think he'd be a 4, especially defensively. He could probably switch to help out it on defending 5s. I'm not sure how well, heck, as a freshman, how well he would do defending on the perimeter.
Yeah,
because that's one thing that Francis still struggle with a little bit is defending on the perimeter. And I noticed it. It's a scrimmage, so keep that in mind as well, everybody. But even Big said when the team does their monster double teaming of the post, the ball in the post, one of Sid's issues was he got there, but he started to use his hands. He would kind of like put his hands on the person with the ball. That's a foul. So he's got to learn to break that habit. But he was there. The rotations were good. Just can't play defense with your hands on the perimeter. So just things like that to learn. But JoJo's potential offensively around the basket, I think, surprised a lot of people. Defensively, he just has to probably get a little bit stronger. But a potential rotation of Juan, Francis, JoJo, and Sid is versatile. It's long, athletic, and I'm going to toss this out for you and everybody listening on LOC that don't be surprised at some points to see Terrence Arsenault at the 4 as well.
So that's a seamless transition because I want to talk some about the guys that were new a year ago, and I loved Terrence Arsenault out of high school. Beaumont United, so he's a local kid. You got to love that. You got to love that he played multiple positions in high school and they won. He played whatever it took to make the team win, and Beaumont United won state championships, plural. The program has kept going. I don't mean to say that it was just him, but he was a key part of all he was there. Talk to me about, let's start with him because you brought him up. What did you see out of Terrence? What growth did you see out of Terrence in the scrimmage from year 1 to 2? Because there were times in year 1 where he felt timid, right? At least on offense.
Yeah, for sure. Despite the staff giving him the green light to shoot from 3, they want him to take those shots and not hesitate. He did that a lot as a freshman. That's what some freshmen do, so it's okay. He did not hesitate from 3 in the scrimmage, so that's a positive. His motion, his form, and you've been a coach. His form is not consistent on the 3 to be a consistently good 3-point shooter. So he can make them if he does the proper form, hand motion, follow through, squaring up, all those things. Sometimes it breaks down and the hand goes flying. The offhand just goes flying. Like you can just see it sometimes in practice. If his guide hand just goes, it's no in the world is going to be going. The shot's going in based on his form, on his hand position. But I think he saw a little bit of his ball handling had improved a little bit from what we saw in the scrimmage. His role would change a bit, but his potential and his upside, and he's versatile. So the team has a lot of versatile players for the staff to just toss out there in different combinations to go against teams based on matchups and what they think will work best.
Well, and Arsenault's versatility and potential, I think, are a thing that even NBA scouts see. There are people that have out there that he might have been a late second round or picked up for camps and stuff last year after having kind of a year as a freshman where he was kind of at the end of the rotation, right? He just has that much potential in his game, and it'll be nice to see him unlock it. A guy that has a lot of potential in his game that didn't maybe have the same resume coming in, but has certainly become well known around the country after shooting so well in the NCAA tournament, things like that, is Emmanuel Sharp. Emmanuel Sharp also, if I'm looking at the box score here, right, led both teams in points at the scrimmage with 19. Emmanuel Sharp coming in and being a key part of the guard rotation could really take Houston kind of to the next level because they have so many guards with and we haven't even talked about Damian Dunn, but Cryer and Shead and so many guys. What did you see that looked different out of Emmanuel Sharp? I mean, obviously he can shoot, but did anything stick out as different or that he's added?
He added more range. Honestly, he took some deep threes last night. Tuesday night, and made them. So I think he's getting stronger, more time spending with Coach Bishop, and the more time he's been in the program, because his time in high school was injury filled, and I think he's finally getting healthy, and his body's recovering from those injuries in high school. So he should have a breakout year. I'm kind of curious with all of them, how they perform in the Big 12, because Big 12 basketball is a cut above the American. We all know that. So kind of curious to see how these guys respond to the night in, night out grind of Big 12 hoops.
Well, and last year when the season ended, the famous picture from the end of the season is they put 33-4 on the whiteboard, like it was still a great year or whatever. Right. Or the message you take from that would be, I don't imagine they go 33-4 in the Big 12. I'd love it, but I don't think they will.
No.
Right.
Yeah, it's a question of, and it's not a bad thing. The team could lose in conference 6 to 8 games, and still be very good come tournament time.
And still be like a top 4 seed, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not crazy in that conference.
So, I mean, it's just how good the Big 12 is. Kansas, they did reload. There was a point earlier in the offseason where they had so many scholarships to fill. Well, Coach Self did it. That's what he does. Big question for the team, the Cougs really will be the front court. We touched on the backup big man, the youngsters up front, and Tugler and Lott. How will they respond this year with consistent? Will Coach Sampson trust them based on how they have looked, how they perform in practice, to give them consistent minutes in conference play for sure?
Yeah.
So
seriously.
we'll see. But again, the team, I'd be stunned. You'd be stunned if the team went 33-4 in the Big 12. This team, let's see, they play what? Let's say 30, let's see, what is it? 30 games roughly in pre-conference, and then conference, and then post the conference tournament up to 3, and then into the tournament. So ultimately up to 40.
If they go all the way, right?
If go all the way,
40.
Up to 40. So before the tournament starts, we're looking at 34. They could be 26-8, 25-9, something like that, and still be very good.
And be really good. And 35. Really good. I mean, and this is a Big 12. Whatever you think about UT Austin, like they're good again. I assume they're going to be good again. Actually, the guys that can go the pros. They got Kansas and Baylor. Lost LJ Cryer, but it's plenty good. You mentioned the front court rotation. I want to talk about a guy that I was excited about when he committed, and then he redshirted and didn't play last year. And then he was initially going to transfer, and then he tested those waters and came back. Malik Wilson, if you have not watched him play, folks, once you're done with this and you go watch some Houston Roundball review, then go watch some YouTube highlights of this kid in high school. He can fly. He jumps out of the gym. And I like dunks. I like watching dunks. That's the fun part of basketball. Some people like shots. Some people like defense. I like watching dunks. Malik Wilson's a ton of fun. Mm-hmm. Does he fit into that front court rotation at all? Is he more of a perimeter guy, or is it going to be kind of another year where he's at the end of the rotation?
They have so many guards. We haven't even touched on Ramon Walker. Malik, second half of the Tuesday scrimmage, he picked Jamal Shead clean. I mean, just stripped him clean. Jamal tried to pump, Malik just, I got that. Thank you very much for the ball. He just took it from him, and Jamal tripped out of his shoe and tried to play it off like it was a foul or something. He's without a shoe. His pride was kind of hurt. So he's like, because he smiled because he got picked clean. And the team had gone, everybody's going down the other end of the floor. So Jamal was like, yeah, he got me. So he's like, oh, should I pick up my shoe and get back down the court? Yeah. So all that happening, I think there was a turnover on the other end. So they're coming back down the court. And Jamal's like, ref. I still don't have on my shoe. So the ref had to stop possession. But Malik's defense is so good. His on-ball defense is so good, and that's one thing Coach Sampson said last season. Terrence Arsenault credited Malik for his defense to help Terrence improve throughout the season. So Malik's defense is just another weapon for Coach to use. But we got the guards. Let's see. Jamal Shead, L.J. Cryer, Damian Dunn, Emmanuel Sharp, Ramon Walker, Malik Wilson. I guess that's 6. That's why I say Terrence might play up front, to balance out everything. This is how deep this team is, which goes back to there won't be a need for Cordell Jefferson to play this season.
Not at all. Like, he can redshirt and be fine because several of those guys are upperclassmen. And I think, I don't actually know how Cryer's COVID year transfers. I don't know but he is a likely pro, right? Like, the idea would be that there'd be a bigger need for him a year from now anyway. I wish Malik would get to play for his sake. He seems like a nice kid. Seems like he's a well-spoken and a good kid when talking to us. And again, he can fly. He plays great defense. Those are things that are fun to watch.
He had a putback last night. It wasn't a Tuesday night. It wasn't a dunk. Okay. But he was so high up and he just tapped it in. The crowd was like, ooh. That's how high up he was. It was just like, wow, he can fly. So, yeah. The fans in attendance, great crowd, Parker, for a red and white scrimmage, 100 and plus degree weather. Fans came in to cool off, apparently, whatever. But it was a great crowd to attend a scrimmage, which is another example of how far the program has come. Folks coming to see a scrimmage.
Last player I want to talk about, we hadn't mentioned Ramon Walker, and he went through a tough season last year. And we talked about it when it happened, and I'm sure you talked about some on your channels when it happened. But he just had a kind of up and down year. And there was talk about, will he stay, will he go, etc. He stayed, and he's a guy I think people enjoyed cheering for because of the effort he plays with, right? Just pure Kelvin Sampson ingrained effort. I mean, he has it obviously from prior experience, but it's in his being. He struck me as a guy, when you talk about like guys playing out of position to maybe add an extra forward with, even though a 6'4" forward, because of his energy, he struck me as a guy that could do the Marcus Smart thing where you guard guys 4 or 5 inches taller than you if you need to or whatever. How did he look in the scrimmage? Did he play any forward minutes, or was it really a bunch of guard minutes with Jamal Shead in the backcourt? Mostly
up front minutes. He didn't stand out, which is okay. He dove on the floor. He did Ramon Walker things, and I think that's a good thing. That's his role on the squad. He should not have to take a lot of 3-point shots. That would be what the opponents would probably want the Cougs to do in terms of the rotation and swinging the ball. His 3-point shot form is not as good as it used to be. Maybe the injury he had changed his shot, whatever. But I think he will be asked to defend some bigger guys, defending 4s. He can do that because of his effort, because of his smarts, and his hustle. The Cougs seem to have, under Coach Sampson and the staff, seem to have a Nate Hinton / Ramon Walker player every year.
Yeah.
And Ramon's absence last year, I think, hurt the team. There were times when they needed to get that rebound, that they did not have a guy like Ramon to just go get that rebound, to go chase it down. When Jawan, he couldn't get them all, and Jarris couldn't get them all. So there was somebody else needed to get a rebound, and they kind of missed out on it.
I love Jarris. He didn't get them all. I say couldn't.
He didn't. That's a better word. Yeah. Because
I love Jarris.
When he was not on the board like he should have been. And same with Juan, especially toward the end of the season. Juan had some ups and downs rebounding. And that hurt the team because the guards did not rebound like previous guard teams, Cougar-led teams did. Terrence Arsenault being one, Emmanuel Sharp. When Emmanuel crashed the board, you could see a difference in the team when they had rebounding from the guards.
No, you mentioned a Kelvin Sampson staple. It seems like every Kelvin Sampson team since he's gotten to Houston has been undersized. Doesn't mean to say they haven't had any 7-footers or anything, but they've had guys playing up in position. It feels like every year at some position, and it's going to be another year of that. It's going to be another year of guys like Juan Roberts and Javier Francis covering 7-footers. Like you mentioned, Kansas, they got to go cover Hunter Dickinson, right? That's the way that goes. This weekend, though, they start playing in Australia. And last but not least, what have you heard about I know they leave on Friday. The kids seem excited about it. I saw some clips online of them talking about who will and won't. Jamal Shead was talking about who will and won't mess with animals. What are you hearing about Australia?
He will not. He
will not.
Said he will not. And he reiterated it Tuesday night. I'm not touching anything. If it crawls, if it spits, I'm not touching it. Don't worry, it won't be me. Juan said the same thing. Won't be him either. They kind of hinted at the one teammate who will is Emmanuel Sharp. So E Sharp might be the curious one. We'll find out if he is that one to do the oh yeah, that's kind of curious. Might be him. Other than that, who knows? But the key thing for the trip, besides the culture aspect of it and learning, and I believe all the players, this will be their first trip overseas for sure, but definitely, well, I think LD Cry went to Macedonia with Athletes in Action. He said that. But for everybody else, this will be the first time going to Australia.
And that because I think Juan went
to Italy.
Because he's been around that long.
He's
now.
So old, yes. Yep. Coach Kelvin had a great line, Parker. I don't know if you heard it last night. He said Tuesday night. He said, and Akeem Olajuwon's favorite teammate, Juan Roberts.
That's pretty good. They play some good competition in Australia. The Illawarra Hawks. I mean, that's like where LaMelo played when he went down there, played in the pros. They're playing grown men.
They're playing the Australian national team.
Any expectations besides, you said culture building? Should people expect anything out of this besides that?
I don't expect them to beat the Australian national team. I think that's going to be a butt whipping right there. And that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. Coach Sampson, he wants that. He wants the team to, Australian team to show weaknesses, what the Cougs need to work on. This is August. And you've covered the team long enough, and fans know who follow the team long enough. Coach Sampson said it Tuesday night as well, in case you didn't know. This is August. The goal is to be better, playing the best basketball in March, February and March. Get better in September than August. Get better in October than September, on and on. So get beaten down in August by Australia, the Australian select team maybe as well. It's okay. Don't freak out if the scores are lopsided. Jamal Shead said that we'll see if the team has the right mindset or the pros will kick their butts.
Yeah.
The pros might kick their butts anyway if they have whether they have the right mindset or not, because the talent, the strength, the experience, those are grown men who play either in the NBA or the NBL. So it's a different level of talent and experience that the Cougs are going against, but that's part of being better. You don't get better playing against guys you're better than. You get better playing against opponents better than you, because they make you get better and work on your skills to help you strengthen your weaknesses. And that's what this is about.
And it's iron sharpening iron and all of those good things. You're following Houston Cougars and again the Rice Owls, and do y'all talk Texas Southern basketball? I'm trying to think of other schools in town.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the Rockets and anyone playing basketball in Houston, y'all cover the Houston Roundball Review. Tell people, Kris, where they can find you, your work, and all. You're doing a bunch of different projects with this channel, so take the floor.
Appreciate that, Parker. Thank you. On the screen there and listening as well, audio. Twitter, X, VHR Review, THEHRREVIEW. I still put out. What are they, Parker? Are they X's now? What are they? What are they posts? Are they still tweets? I'm not sure.
I still say tweets.
So I still put out tweets. So you can follow me there. I'm on Threads at Houston Roundball Review. The YouTube channel is Houston Roundball Review, but it has playlists for other live stream shows like Folks Talking Sports, where we talk sports, not just basketball. So it's football, college football, some Texans, We have a playlist show called the AdMax Corner, which is Texans focused, with my colleague Adolphus Moore, A.D. Moore. He covers the Texans, but he also appears on Folks Talking Sports with me, Andy Yanez, and Willie Gibson. So FTS is where we talk sports. The other playlist is Let's Talk Houston Rockets. So clearly, the topic of that show is the Rockets. So different topics, shows, playlists, everybody, but they're all at the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram at Houston Roundball Review, TikTok for now, Houston Roundball Review, Threads, Houston Roundball Review. You get the idea.
Houston Roundball Review. And I've heard you say do people actually have trouble the HR Review feels very easy to find to me. But anyway, make sure you type it in right, I guess, because
and that I guess that's it, because the handle is so old. At the time I did it, they did not have they had a character limit, so I could not choose Houston Roundball Review. So that's the issue right there.
Well, and you say old, we'll say you've been doing it for a long time, experience.
Experience. Thank you very much. Experience. Let's go with that. Yes, experience.
For sure, man. They should go follow Kris and the great work he's doing covering all things Houston sports, not just basketball, but all things at the Houston Roundball Review. Go Cougs, Kris.
Including football, because I got added to the Coogs football email list as well. So I'll be stopping by there for the Folks Talking Sports part of the channel.
Go Cougs.